I have my 18 rows of 5/8. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my shape. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So, and I only had that PVC pipe on for like 2 rows and took it off. So you'll see that it gently comes out to the sides. Not a whole lot. If you look at it from that point, it looks pretty brown. So I did pretty good on this one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1/2-inch stakes to start the outer wall. And let me check here and see where I want to put them. I want to put them on the 2nd and 3rd one of these. So it'll be 2nd and 3rd. So if you're having trouble getting them in there, you can always use your weave right tool. So and I'm going to put 1 stake on top of each one of these. And you'll notice that, so if that one goes in like, you know, under 2, then it's going to be under 2 here, but it's up 1 row. Okay. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And remember, once again, you want the smooth side facing you. You want the rough side to the basket. And when you come on one that has, you know, where you've started a row or ended a row, it's going to be a little bulkier. So let's use that weave right tool and open that up a little bit. Plus, I wove this fast, so it's still pretty wet. If it was dry, it would go in there easier. So I'm going to go all the way around with this, and then we're going to weave the outer wall. So when I get them all around, we'll talk again. Okay, so we have our stakes on all the way around for our outer wall. And now what we're going to do is we are going to use some 1/4-inch flat oval. And you'll notice that it will only go down as far as the 1, 2, 3, 3rd row. Okay, because where we put the stakes in. So this is just over and under. If you want to use a clip just to hold it, because you can pull on this now, because this basically, the inner wall is now your mold. So if I wanted to pull on this a little bit, I can do that. So I'm going to do 1 row of the 1/4-inch flat oval. Doing plain weave again. And take that back. I want to start this on a row that, can I do that? No, I cannot. So this is actually going to go on top of that woven row of your stake. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on the 4th stake that you're actually weaving on top of that. So that you can get that down good and tight. You can always pull it a little bit. So I'm going to do 1 row of 1/4-inch flat oval, and then I'm going to do 1 row of 1/2-inch, and I'm going to repeat that pattern of 1/4-inch flat oval and 1/2-inch flat for quite a few rows, and I don't remember how many, so I'm going to look. So it's the same thing. Here's where I started, always on top. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to make that cut so that you don't see the beginning and you don't see the end. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it like a 1/4 turn. And I'm going to check my 1/2-inch to make sure that I'm putting the rough edge to the inside of the basket. And just over and under. Now, like I say, I would normally not be weaving on the table. And you'll notice that I'll like take a couple strokes and then I'm pulling just a little bit. Maybe that's a 1/4 inch of pull, if that. And you think, well, that doesn't make any difference, but it does. So make sure that you're keeping that snug to that inner wall that you've already woven up, okay? So I'm gonna bring this over. I'm gonna count 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, you can see that my stakes, as I start out, are all here, there, and everywhere. It's your job to straighten up those stakes as you weave so they're straight up and down. So if you see that they're over a little bit right or left, then straighten them up as you weave, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and do these up, and let me see how many rows I'm doing. Looks like there's 20, oh, that's 24 stakes. So we're going to do this for like 5 or 6 rows, and then we're going to put that black cane on there, okay? So this is one I'm going to do like, actually I'm going to do about 4 rows, and then I'm going to show you how to put that cane on, or reed on. And that's the other thing. What we did is I originally did this with black cane, but black cane is hard on your hands. The black cane that I had was coming off on my hands. I wasn't real happy with it. You don't really need it for this basket. It's just decorative. So when you're working on your basket, you see that it says cane. It's actually 1/4 inch flat oval reed in black that you'll be using. Okay, so let me do a couple rows here, and then we'll get those on. All right, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I want to put these black 1/4 black reed down on the stakes that have 1/4 over. Not the 1/2 inch that's over, the 1/4 that's over. Okay, so you had 24 original stakes, right? So that should mean that we only need 12 here, because we're going every other stake. That's gonna be a pain. So I'm just gonna lift that up and stick it in here. Now you could wait and slide these in when it's dry, but the sooner you get these in, the easier it is, especially because you're weaving tight. And I try to bring it down to underneath one of these, like maybe the second guy here. You can bring it all the way down here, but it's just tighter and you don't really need it. So every other one, make sure that you're putting them on a stake that has the 1/4 inch flat oval over the stake. Okay. And then when we get done putting these stakes in, I put them in early just because I wouldn't want to try doing them all the way down, especially if it was wet. So you could even put it in when you had like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, instead of doing these extra 2. The less weave you have, the easier it is to get that down. Okay, or like 3 if you wanted to as well. But whatever you do, don't wait till you get all the way woven up and then have to thread those through there, especially when it's wet. It will be a pain. Do it early. Okay, so I'm going to go around and then I'm going to finish doing my, how many, let's see, I'm going to do 13 sets of these 2 rows, which would be 26 rows total, right? And then we will start putting these 2 layers together. Okay, so what I want to show you is I've got my 13 up here, and I ended up with my 1/4 inch flat oval. But you can see that this is the point where I'm going to put the 2 layers together, and the inside layer is a little bit too high. And I went back and checked. I did do 18 rows, but that was a little bit too much. And it could be because this particular 5/8 that I used was a little bit wider. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull those out because I need these to be level. I'm going to put them together. So, if that happens to you, don't worry about it. It's just one of those little idiosyncrasies. The other thing I want to show you on this too is, and this is one of the reasons why we did not send you cane. This cane that I got, see these little black pieces here? That's from using that black cane. So that is why you have 1/4" flat oval in your kit. And I didn't have any with me here today, so that's why I went ahead and used it. But I don't know what is up with that cane, but it's bleeding a lot, and I don't like it. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these 2 rows together. So one of the things that you want to keep in mind as you are weaving this is that you're going to put these together. And I went ahead and wiped that reed. So you want to keep those stakes pretty close to one another when you're weaving. You know, if they're shifting over, move them over, because you're going to put them back together again. And we're going to do this for about 5 rows. So same as before, except this time you're putting those 2 rows back together. If you want to clip it, that's fine. So 5 rows of this, and then once we got this done, you can go ahead, one of 2 things. You can either go ahead and start doing your arrows on the outside, or you can finish it just by doing a cut and tuck. I wouldn't rim it yet, and then do your arrows. Either way is fine. It's totally up to you. But you are going to have to do a couple more rows of 1/2 inch once we get these 5 on here. But just to let you know that at that point you could stop, and I think in your pattern I do stop before I go much further, but it doesn't matter. You can either cut and tuck and then put your arrows in, but I would not rim it until you get all your arrows in. So there's one, and I'm going to go ahead and do 4 more, and then I'll do a couple of 1/2 inch rows, and then it'll be time to do the arrows. My 2 layers on, or I'm sorry, my 2 last rows of 1/2 inch. This one is going to show. This one is actually the false rim and is not going to show. So what I want to do next is I'm going to cut and tuck, but I don't need, this is the row, since it's on top of, I'm sorry, this is the stake that is going to be cut and tucked over. I don't need that added bulk when I do the over. So that 1/2 inch stake, which was the outer wall, and that black overlay is going to get cut. Now also what's going to get cut is the ones that are inside that row. This is over. When it's over, it's not going to get tucked. So I'm going to come down and cut those too. And I'm going to do this all the way around. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you real quick what I do. I do keep these long. I'm going to get them wet. Usually I go all the way around and do this, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing here before I run out of power. So what I'll do is I'll take these, make sure they're still long, cut them to a point, and I've got them wet, right? And I bend that over. Now, when I put this in, I don't want to put it in this black weave, okay? It's small, it's a pain in the keister. But what I do want to do is put it down here. So I won't start tucking that until I hit a 1/2 inch row, and that is actually a little bit too long. I want it long so that I can hit that, but I don't want to make it so that it is, you know, it has to go down a long way. The longer you go, the more resistance you get, the harder it is to get it in there tight. Okay, so You notice that I don't tuck it in that black. I start on the first 1/2 inch that's available to me to tuck. I'm going to do one more here. So I am going to take, you know, maybe 2 inches off that, 1.5 inches. Once again, I'm going to come down here to that first, it's hard to get it on an angle, that first 1/2 inch weave that's available to me. And then I'm going to bring it down through there by opening that up. And if you got a piece that maybe it's just too tight, come back up here and pull down a little, like, that's maybe 1/4 of it. It's still going to hold, and you'll see that it'll go down there a lot nicer. Maybe. So anyways, it will. Let's just be in particular. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way around. So we are going to go ahead and start on the arrows. So let me show you quickly what arrows look like before we begin. And I'm going to do one set. So there's arrows that go in between each one of these black overlay stakes. So there'll be 12 of them. Okay. The stakes are cut at about 5.5 inches. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start. The first one is black. All right, so we're going to go to about right here. So if you're counting that, that would be, counting this one, 1, 2, 3, and that's what we're going to tuck it under. So you can see that that is just a little bit large. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to use this one. Okay. And not counting that one, 1, 2, 3, that's where I want that to tuck into. That's still a little bit big. So I'm going to cut this down, and I want to tuck that in. Right underneath here. So what you end up doing is putting these ends in between, and I can cut this down, in between the 2 layers so that you don't notice them. I think I'm going to start this one on the top here. When you first start out, it tends to be a little cumbersome, like anything. And then it gets a little easier as you go up. So the really good, and this is one of the reasons why I do double walled, because if I want to do design work on the outside of this, I don't want to have to worry about little picky things being on the inside. And when you do a double walled layer, you don't have that. So once again, that's a little long, and I'm going to turn that off. So now, there's my start, okay? The next one that I need to put in is the turquoise. And they're always going to go over. Actually, they're going to get laid. And it doesn't matter if you start on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Whichever way that you decide to do this, then just stay consistent. So I'm going to actually put that behind. Like I said, it's a little tight starting out. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 and put it underneath that 4th one. Okay. This again is a little bit too long. So maybe more like 4 inches. Actually, I'd go with 5 because it's easier to trim them up than to make them grow. And then I'm just going to repeat that process over here. So I kind of want to go back behind that black cane a little bit. And like I said, as you keep going, you'll have more room. But you do want to kind of go back behind it a little bit so it holds it well. But you don't want it to poke out. It's that fine line there. Okay, so then I'm going to put that in here. And I want to put enough length in there so that it doesn't come untucked. All right. And my next color is yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing. starting so that I'm underneath. I'm gonna come up to that fourth one, or the next one in line. That's right, easier to see. And like I said, I don't want it short. I want it to be able to go in there for a little bit so that it does not come back out with wear and tear on the basket. So there's one. Here's the next one. I'm going to put it on a little angle so it goes in nicer. That's okay too. Okay, the one after that is turquoise, or sorry, not turquoise, coral. Once again, I'm going to put it down through the center here, get it underneath there. And I want it to be on the next 1/4 inch flat oval. I'm going to go underneath here. So that's a little bit long. I'm trim that up. But I don't want to do it so that it's so short that it pops out. All right, and then once I get this last one in, I want that on top of that. Actually, I want it on the bottom. So actually, what I'm going to do is, as I keep developing this, I'll repeat that pattern all the way up. And then when I get to the top one, I'll actually take a turquoise piece and put it down the center point there, so that it looks like that. So when I get all the way done doing this, and there's like 1, 2, 3 sets of those, then I'll put a turquoise one on top to meet it. Okay, so I won't go through that whole process, but you can tell it's a little bit time consuming to get it done. And once we got this part done, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go jump ahead and show you how to lash the basket, and then I'll have to take my time putting all that on there. Seems like I missed one. I did. There should be a purple in here. Purple, yellow, and then coral. So I'll back that up and change it. But anyways, you get the idea how that works. And it does, you know, I mean, it does bunch up off of it a little bit. You want to make sure that they're long enough that they don't pop out, especially up here. Okay, so let's get the basket rimmed.